As we were saying yesterday and the previous talks, I think it's very important, if I may point out, repeat it again, that one should be a light to oneself. And not follow anybody. Naturally, except in the technological world, you have to follow, you have to accept, you have to do all kinds of things there. But in this world of the mind, or if you like to use the word spirit, authority cripples, destroys that light. One must come upon it for oneself. Truth is something you can't find through another. Nor through any technique. And it is becoming more and more evident throughout the world that because technological world has so extraordinarily advanced, we think that the same kind of technology can be applied for ourselves, for our psychological well-being. So we are apt to think or feel or accept that a technique of some kind is necessary for deep understanding, having an insight, or coming upon that truth. So if I may point out again this morning that one should be most advisedly careful not to accept anything from anybody psychologically, but to investigate for oneself if one is at all serious. And from there, one can learn a great deal. Because one is the world, as we pointed out. If we know how to read the book of ourselves, then everything is there. Now what shall we?
Can we talk this morning, sir, about energy? Can we talk about energy this morning?
Energy. Can we talk about energy?
Sir, could we talk about self-deception?
Self-deception.
Self-deception and if one couldn't be aware of it.
Can we talk about self-deception and be aware of it?
Question that has been asked by somebody. You said, when I am so sad, for instance, if I look at my sadness, it disappears. But at the instant when I am sad, I cannot look at my sadness. It is only a little later that I can see or observe the sadness. But if it is then a dead film that I observe, would you explain that point more clearly?
If I observe my sorrow, one sorrow, it disappears. Would you please go into it much more? That's the question. Question, yes. Huh?
Suicide. What do you think of suicide?
What do I think of suicide? What do I personally think about suicide? And what other things would like to do?
Could we talk more about being a light unto ourselves? There are moments when I find no light within me.
Can we talk more or have a dialogue about being a light to oneself? Shall we start with that? And perhaps we could include all of the questions in it. What does it mean to be a light to oneself? So we'll start from the beginning. We are not light to ourselves now. That's a fact, right? We are confused politically, religiously, in all our relationships with each other. There is a certain strain, confusion, conflict. And from that, this question of sorrow and so on. So we are, as human beings, right throughout the world, dreadfully confused. There are so many guides, so many philosophies, so many gurus with their systems, asserting, persuading, hoping that you will follow the right, and so on. So there is this immense confusion outwardly and inwardly. That's a fact. Can we start from there? And there are many throughout the world who think or assert that this light or this wisdom or this truth, God, whatever name we like to give it, is abiding in each one. That is an assumption, a theory, a traditional acceptance of what someone has asserted, or because you are conditioned to that, you accept it. So the fact is, we are very, very confused. Right? Could we start from that basis? We may be sometimes not confused, sometimes see things very, very clearly, and having that perception once, we want, it becomes a memory, and we want to capture it, hold on to it, and fight to get it back again. But as human beings, wherever we live, in whatever climes and whatever circumstances, this state of confusion and conflict exists. That's a fact from which we can start. If we are light to ourselves now, conflict wouldn't exist, right? So we must start with actually what is. Obviously, if there is any kind of confusion, whatever choice we make out of that confusion will still be confused, right? Out of my confusion, suppose I am confused, I choose a certain path, certain direction, certain guru, certain activity. Because I am confused, out of that confusion, whatever I choose will equally be confusing. I think that's equally a fact. So, it becomes very important not to choose, right? I wonder if we understand that. Not to follow a certain direction, or a path, or a system, or a method, or a guru, or this or that, because it leads us to much greater confusion, to greater division, which is what's happening in the world. There are your gurus and my gurus, and mine is better than yours, and mine knows more than you. You follow this battle going on all around us. So, to find the light for oneself, action out of confusion leads to further confusion, right? Can we not accept it as a fact. It's like blind leading the blind. So, the first requirement, it seems to me, is to be free from the desire to find truth, to find something away from what is. Right? I wonder if, right? Are we meeting each other? So are we aware that we are confused? And if we are confused, then what is the action? Or is there any action which will not lead to further confusion? Or is there an observation of this confusion which by the very observation, that is, the very observation is the action? Let me go into a little bit more. Suppose I'm confused as a human being, and I realize that whatever I do out of that confusion will lead to further confusion, further conflict, further misery. I'm very clear on that point. Then I must act. Life demands action. I can't wait till I've completely unconditioned myself and then act. You follow? I must act. Because action is life. Like relationship is life, activity, action, the doing, is part of life. So, what am I to do? I know I'm very confused. And is there a part of me which is not confused? You follow? Or is the whole of me confused? Is there a part of me or somewhere in me, is there clarity? Is there a sense of freedom, total freedom, in which there is no confusion, conflict, all the rest of it? You understand my question?
One must be very careful not to put that into words and see it.
One must be very careful not to put into words. I understand, but I'm inquiring into it. I am asking myself, if I am confused, I'm asking myself, am I totally confused in all my consciousness, understand, the whole of it, or is there a part of that consciousness, which is me, which is not confused? And if I can hold on to that part which is not confused, then out of that action will be right. You understand my point? So I must find out if there is anywhere within me, not imagined, not caught in an illusion of desire, I must find out if there is anywhere within me some spot which is really beautifully, completely free of all the confusion. Right? You've understood my question? Or the whole of me is confused. Can a confused mind confused consciousness asks such a question. Is there a part of me which is not confused? I wonder if you see the point of this. If I am confused, my mind is troubled, in conflict, broken up, fragmented. And that mind, which is fragmented, asks, is there a part of me which is clear, not fragmented? You follow? It's a wrong question. Of course, it's a wrong question. But we put that question. I don't know if you see the importance of this. I am confused, and I know I am very confused. But my desire is there must be somewhere within me, some spot, some area where there is tremendous clarity. My desire wants that. And so it creates an illusion. And is caught in that illusion. Say, yes, there is an area which is very clear. You follow? So one must be aware at depth that this idea or this desire to have, yes, an area where there is clarity, which is an illusion, one must become very careful about that, not be caught in it. So I'm asking then, I am totally, as a human being, confused, religiously, politically, my relationship, in my activity, there is regrets, there is sorrow, there is pain, there is anxiety. You follow? All the human agony with which I am surrounded, of which I am part. Now, life demands action. Life says, without relationship, you cannot exist. And I discover in my relationship too, there is confusion, there is conflict, there is battle between the sexes, as it's called. So there it is. So what shall I do? You understand now my question? I am not admitting or desiring an area within my consciousness where there is some clarity. I totally put away that because I see it is the activity of desire, hope, wanting, which inevitably leads to illusion. So I completely discard that. Please, this is a dialogue. I'm not talking only. We are sharing this thing together. Therefore, you are participating in this. So I'm only confused. And I must act. And I see I have relationships. Wife, husband, boy, girl, whatever relationship. Father, parents, so on. And there too I'm confused. Confusion implies conflict. Confusion implies uncertainty. Confusion implies a sense of division. I'm aware of all that. So, what shall I do? Knowing that whatever I do will lead to further confusion, further misery. So what shall I do? Shall I wait till I have cleared all my confusion, withdraw into a world of monasteries, retreats, ashramas, you follow? Communes, all the rest of it. Shall I withdraw into all that? And that implies I have to choose there too. Which commune, which guru, which ashrama, which retreat, but I'm still confused, so whatever I choose will be right. I wonder if you see all this. So I say to myself, joining a group, retreating into a monastery, following somebody else is still part of this confusion. So I will not follow anybody. I will not join any group or retreat into any monastery or into commune. So I'm left with this confusion. You understand what we are doing? We are brushing everything away which desire hopes to find some clarity and therefore creates illusion. So we are cleaning the deck, as it were. And what shall I do? I am related, I have relationships, I have to earn a livelihood, I have to write, read, something, I have to act. What shall I do? Dialogue, please. Who is it that wants to do something? My girl or my wife or my parents say, do this. Society demands that I do something. Right? Earn a livelihood. It's not, I want to do something, because I realize whatever I do is confusion. But society, parents, everything says you have to act. You can't sit still on a chair and look at your navel. So what shall I do? Come on, have a dialogue with me, please. Let's have dialogue. Conversation between two people who are interested in the same thing, with the same intensity, you understand? And therefore a communication takes place easily. There is an unconscious desire or a belief or a longing that there must be a way out from this confusion, right? So we have to go into that question. Please, we have to go into this question, which is the content of my consciousness, whether it is conscious or deep down, hidden, is there anywhere within the hidden area an actuality which is clear, an actuality, not an imagined actuality? So I have to examine what is hidden within the consciousness, right? Now, first of all, who has divided this consciousness into the unconscious and the conscious? Who has divided it?
It started when parents say this is allowed and this is not allowed.
No. Why does this division exist? Let me put it that way.
Because thought takes over.
No, don't jump to the whole Freudian, you follow? The whole psychological world and the analytical world, the psychotherapeutic world says there is an unconscious, right? And the conscious, there is a division. And I say to myself, why is there this division? Who has invented this division? Why should I accept the division? Million people say there is a division. Professors, highly qualified people, MDs and all the rest of it, they say there is a division. The unconscious. I said, you all may be wrong. I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but you may be. I don't know. But why should I accept this division? You
It is the movement not knowing, assuming that there is something secret.
Yeah, that is, the human mind demands to know, and there may be something in consciousness which is hidden. That's all you can say. Something hidden, not divided. You understand? I'm objecting to the division. No, I'm objecting it rationally, not because I'm prejudiced against division. But I say, why do we accept millions and millions of people now in the Western world and partly in the Eastern world now, because the West is conquering technologically in every way the East. So why humanity has accepted this? It is incapacity to see the whole. You understand? The incapacity to see the totality of consciousness. So you say, because there is this incapacity, there has been this division. See, all these, watch it very carefully. In yourself, please look at it yourself. Because I am incapable of seeing the totality of my consciousness, I resort to dividing it, thereby hoping I'll see the whole. First, I fragment it, then I put it together in the hope of seeing the whole. You understand?
This is the technological approach. This is the technological approach applied to psychology.
I know this, I'm just saying this. I'm just now in New York, we've met about 30 psychotherapeutics, so we know, part of this whole business. So, first we divide, and then we join them together. Then I say to myself, why do you divide it first? And you say, well, I can't see the whole. How do you know you can't see the whole? Is it because you have divided it and you are conditioned by this division, which is you have accepted a tradition that it is divided? I wonder if you're following all this.
I'm still dividing it if I accept this.
Yes, sir. Now my question then is, as I am an outsider, if I may point out, I don't accept this division. Though 1 million people accept it, I say it's nonsense. Because what is important is see the whole of consciousness, right? Then there is no necessity for a division. Now, is that possible? You follow my next question, sir?
È molto difficile, perché ci sono delle cose che io adopero tutti i giorni e restano alla superficie.
Sì, sì.
Altre che io non adopero mai e vanno in profondità. Quindi questa divisione è istintiva.
As I live daily the Italian friend says, as I live daily superficial life, it is very difficult for me to see the whole, and therefore the very superficiality has divided. It is just, no?
Sì, e volevo aggiungere, ci sono altre cose, anche molto importanti, che io non guardo mai e vanno giù nel fondo. Ecco che io allora, quando occasionalmente uso quelle cose, mi viene di fatto di dire quelli erano nell'incontro.
Yes, that's same thing, yes. As I live a superficial life, and occasionally I delve deeply, and that delving deeply gives the idea that there is the unconscious and the conscious. The delving deeply. Because I live a superficial life. That's what the questioner says. That's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is the incapacity to see the whole, and therefore division takes place. The other is, one lives a very, very superficial life, and occasionally one digs deeply. It may be a dream, or it may be a conscious act. Then you realize there is something much deeper than the surface, and therefore there is a division. Right? Go on, this is a dialogue, please. It gives great strength if you believe in something. Belief gives great strength, right? Now, if there is a neurotic belief, that very neurotic belief gives you an enormous vitality. I don't know if you have met many neurotics. Perhaps most of us are neurotic anyhow. So, they are extraordinarily vital people. Vital in quotes. But that's not the question here for the moment, if I may go into it. So, there are many reasons, or several reasons, why there is this division having been made. Mankind is now generally accepting it. And an outsider like the speaker comes along and says, why does this division exist at all? Is it not possible to see the whole of consciousness? You understand my question?
Je pense qu'en dehors de tout système de psychologie, il y a une raison très simple pour laquelle il y a en nous de l'inconscient. Ce sont toutes les actions qui ne sont pas terminées.
C'est ça.
En particulier, toutes les blessures que nous avons reçues. Et comme il est difficile de vivre avec ces blessures, on les enterre. Alors elles ne sont plus conscientes.
Yeah, that is, he says, in ourselves we are fragmented. In ourselves there are various divisions. And that those divisions help us to divide this consciousness and unconscious. So it's part of our whole life, living, which has brought about this division. Right? Just let's that we accept all these reasons, right? Now, is it possible to see the totality of one's consciousness, including that which is hidden, including that is what you call the unconscious? So I'm asking, is it possible?
I find the more I am trying in a positive way to get out of it, to know, the more the conflict arises.
The more I demand to find out if there is a possibility of total observation, the more conflict arises. I understand, but I'm asking a very, is it possible? I'm not saying it is or it is not. Is it possible for us to see the totality of consciousness, in which is included the unconscious, the hidden? The general agreement is it's not possible, right? The psychologists, the professors, the MDs, all of them say, no, that's not possible. It's only given perhaps to few loonies, but actually that's not possible. Now, what do we mean by seeing the totality? The whole. Do we observe anything wholly? No, I'm asking, do we observe something completely? Or is it only partially observation? I'm coming to that. So just look at yourself. Can you see, for instance, take greed or envy? Can you see the total movement of greed at once? The total movement. You understand my question? What do you say? Lady says, I don't know. So, all right, you stated that, then what? You're going to inquire, aren't you, further? I don't know. But it is important to find out if it is possible to see the totality of consciousness, including the unconscious. Why isn't it possible? What prevents us from observation of the total? Madam, we have answered that question. Don't please. Look, our question, Madam, is, can you see, observe the total movement of greed, all its implications, why greed arises, what is the source of its continuity, why it is condemned, and so on, so on. The whole movement of greed. Can you see it at one glance? Not only the active greed, conscious greed, but also the hidden greed. Can you see the whole of that?
What do you mean by hidden greed?
Huh?
What is the hidden greed?
Hidden greed, I may say I'm not greedy. But deep down I'm terribly greedy. See, now, please listen to my question first. Can I see the total movement of greed? Oh, it's so simple.
I just think as long as you look for it,
No, I am not asking you, I am not telling you anything. I say I am asking you if you can see the whole movement of greed. You cannot. You say you cannot and you don't know why. Yes, lady says if you are interested in something, you can see the whole of it. I am interested. Oh, these trains. Pazienza. I am interested in seeing the movement of greed, the whole movement. But I haven't got the energy to go fully into it. I'm interested, but the vitality, the energy, the intensity is lacking. So what shall I do? Take drugs? Smoke, drink, all kind of various forms of stimulation to have more energy so that I can watch the total movement of greed? It becomes rather silly, doesn't it? So, what shall I do? See, you're not, may I go into it? As I go into it, you're not helping, you find out, that is, can I observe the total movement of greed, total movement, the hidden as well as the conscious greed. What is movement? You understand? I said total movement of greed. Greed is a movement. It isn't static. It is constantly moving, more. So, can I observe the movement? Now, what do we mean by movement? No, do movement. Movement means from here to there. So movement means time. Right? Time is movement. Whether chronologically or psychologically, it means movement. So, as long as I have this idea of movement, which is time, time is going to prevent me from observing the whole. You get some of it. If it is not clear, we'll go into it.
No, è chiaro, ma mi pare che abbiamo soltanto spostato la domanda.
No.
Perché adesso dobbiamo scoprire che cos'è il tempo
Wait.
e come farlo cessare.
I'm coming to. He asks, you're not answering the question. He says you have moved away from the question, which is you have introduced a new factor, which is time. Then you'll say, how am I to stop time? I am not stopping anything. I am merely observing. And that's the difference. I am not asking myself, how am I to stop time? I am just observing the whole factor, the whole map of greed. And one of the points which prevents me from seeing the whole map of greed is this movement. Movement to end it, the movement to pursue it, the movement which says, I must stop. I am observing all that, which this observation of movement, I am not denying it, I am not trying to stop it, there is only an observation of this movement. So, as desire, as greed is also a movement, right? So it's part of time. I haven't got it, but I will get it. Right? So I have to find out if my mind is caught in this movement, I wonder if you are understanding all this. No, sir, don't agree. It's very, go slowly. We said consciousness contains both the conscious as well as the unconscious. And part of that consciousness is greed, or take any other thing. And so I ask, can we see the totality of greed, the total movement, the nature of the structure of it, how it arises? To see it clearly, not theoretically, but actually. Right? Can you see it? The origin of it and the end of it. Is there an end to greed? You follow? I am not greedy for wealth or money, position, status, and all the house, but I am terribly greedy to have truth. You follow? to find truth. That to me is the most important thing, and I am terribly greedy, which is part of greed. I know you don't like to think that, but it's still greed. So, can I see the whole of it, this movement? I can only see, please, this is simple, I can only see the total movement of greed when there is no direction. To get rid of it, to stop it, to suppress it, all that prevents me from looking at greed totally. Right? Because as we said the other day, direction is fragmentary, which is a motive. Motive is fragmentary. The motive gives a direction, and therefore it's fragmentary. When we have a directive, that I must get rid of it, greed, then I have moved along a certain direction. Therefore, direction prevents me from seeing the whole. You understand this? That is, to suppress desire, greed, to rationalize greed, to escape from greed, or to say I must stop greed. Any activity which is directive prevents the seeing of the whole. Right? So as long as I, as a human being, as a human being who wants to see the totality of consciousness with its hidden layers, must understand, have an insight to the fact that wherever there is a directive, that directive is divisive, therefore fragmentary, which will prevent the perception of the whole. Huh?
Then it's just there.
Huh?
Then it's just there.
No, there's lots more into it, sir. Wait, directive. One more thing.
I'm not clear.
Huh?
Greed, part or the whole? If you say look at greed,
No, I said, sir, greed is part of consciousness, as violence, as hope, despair, anxiety, all that is part of our consciousness. Your consciousness is the world consciousness, and so on. Part of that consciousness is greed. Can you see the movement of greed totally. Not only the hidden, but the obvious greed. We are saying you can only see the totality of the movement of greed only when there is no direction, which means only when there is no motive. Because motive gives direction. Right? That's simple. So, if there is the demand that it's only by seeing the totality of consciousness, then also the unconscious is revealed, then you have to observe without any direction. And as that demands a certain attention, seriousness, because then you end greed, you follow? Then you don't play with greed. So you are then aware of the totality of it. But most people don't want to give up their greed. They like their greed. It's a tremendous pleasure to possess. So we are asking something quite different. So we said that's very clear. And also, to see the whole, it may reveal itself through dreams. Do you want to go into all that? Are you interested in? Huh? You would be interested in anything, huh?
Can we stop for a second with the point about the greed? It is pleasurable, it is also painful.
Of course, sir.
We see clearly our fear of not surviving. We also see the other not surviving. So we have fears of separation.
So, fear is part of our consciousness. And as long as there is fear, which is a directive, therefore you can't see the whole. Dreams. See, there are obvious dreams, obvious physical, biological pressures and dreams. That we're not talking about that. What are dreams? And why should we dream at all? You understand my question? During the day, the brain is very, very active, observing, what it goes through, thinking, chattering, denying, accepting, quarreling, conflict, that's going on all the time. Registering insults, registering flattery. The whole movement is going on during the day. And during the night, the movement goes on. No? Right? Unless there is an end at the day of all this movement of chattering, quarreling, seeking prestige, power, position, all that, if that doesn't end at the end of the day, the brain carries on. Right? This is a fact. Are we moving together? So, dreams are the continuation of our daily activity, only in different form, through pictures, through ideas, you follow? All that symbols. So the same movement of confusion, conflict, misery goes on. So our question is, can this movement of our daily life as we know it with conflict end each moment? You understand? Not at the end of the day, because the brain can only function when it is absolutely in order, properly. You understand? So it demands order. So you can find this out for yourself, very simple.
But sir, there's not always time to go to the bottom of everything.
I'm going to show you in a minute. I know the lady says we haven't time to go into the bottom of every problem, every question, every conflict. We haven't got time. We have got plenty of time. As each thing happens, to look at it and end it. They've got it instantly, plenty of time. But we play with it. We won't go into that for a moment.
I mean, chronological time.
Please, even psychological, please. So, we are saying dreams are a continuation of our daily conflicts, miseries, confusion carried over during sleep, during which the brain is still active because it is trying to bring order while you are asleep. You understand? I wonder if you... Because it says, I can only function if there is order. If there is disorder, I get disturbed, I get neurotic. So I must find order. To have order means security for it. I wonder if this is obvious, all these questions. Or the psychologists here, they will tell you. So it demands order, which means security, for it to function healthily, normally. But as our daily life is so disorderly, it tries during the sleep to find some kind of order. So, is it possible during the day, any problem that arises, psychological, human problem, to, as it arises, to let it flower, end? Let it flower, you understand? It doesn't mean, suppose I'm angry. I let it flower. It doesn't mean I go and beat you up or say words, but I watched the anger flowering in myself and withering. You follow? So, when there is such activity of appearance, manifestation, flowering and withering. As you go along during the day, at night, the brain has order, so it can rejuvenate itself. You understand all these things? So that it is clear. So, we are asking, as the human being is so living in modern society, with all its complexities, becomes so confused, and life demands and relationship demands that he should act. What shall he do? Remember, that was our first question. So in exploring what to do, we say, can you see the whole? It is only when you see the whole there is correct action. We cannot see the whole of consciousness because we have always got some direction, unpleasant or pleasant, hidden or open, but it's always there. And therefore, that prevents the observation of the total map of consciousness. The feeling that I need to understand. Understand whom? Understand the speaker? I'm afraid so. The speaker is only a mirror in which you are seeing yourself. Right? When you see yourself, the mirror becomes unimportant. Break it up. Throw it away. And I mean it. So, we are talking, observing ourselves, not what the speaker says ourselves, which you have to understand, but you have to understand, no, look at yourself. Yourself is confused. Please, that's simple. Totally confused. So, and as long as you do not perceive the totality of that consciousness, whatever you do will lead to further confusion and misery. To perceive the totality of that consciousness, there must be no directive. You understand? Directive means motive. Motive say, I must understand my consciousness. I must get rid of this. I must, all the rest of that childish stuff. So, when there is an observation without a direction, the unconscious is open. You understand? It's all revealed. With one breath you see the whole thing. You don't live. Je n'ai pas tout à fait compris. Qu'est-ce qu'il veut dire?
Si je n'ai pas de motif, pourquoi ferais-je là?
Comment?
Si je n'ai pas de motif, pourquoi ferais-je là?
If I have no motive, why should I do anything? Huh? Is that it? If you have no motive, you say, I have no desire to do anything. Right. You have a motive. There is a motive when you want to have shelter, right? Shelter, a house, a roof on top of you. There is a motive when you want to be clothed. Because it's cold, you want to put on. There's a motive when you are hungry, food, right? Is that same movement carried over to the psyche? You follow my question? There are motives, please, there are motives biologically, organically. It may be that we are so conditioned by that, we carry that over to the psychological area where we say, I must have a motive to live. Otherwise I can't act. You see, madam, you see the difference? Biologically or organically, there is a motive for food, clothes, and shelter, money. I must work, there's a motive. It may be that we are so conditioned by that, we move that same urge into the psychological field. And when there is that in the psychological field any motive, then you divide up life. Break it up. And therefore you don't see the totality of life. Not my life or the totality of human life.
Because I can only care about myself.
Yourself fragmented. So we're asking, can this totality of consciousness be observed? And we are saying it can be observed totally, including the unconscious, where all the travail that's going on in the unconscious as well as in the conscious. A lot of worms squirming. And all that is revealed when they are observing without the observer. You understand? The observer is the past. The observer is the motive. The observer says, I must not do this, I must, etc., etc. So the observer is the past, and the observer gives motive for observation. And therefore, he can never see the totality of it. The observer is the observed, right? That consciousness which he is observing is himself. But he likes to divide it and say, I am different from my consciousness, which is obviously silly. So, observation takes place only when there is no observer as the past, who gives direction. Then, when the perception of the whole, there is action, not fragmented. Ha capito qualche cosa? Have you understood something?
Krishnaji, noi tutti
Also,
There is a constant struggle to identify with the good. One cannot accept the responsibility for the bad.
yeah.
Therefore, the struggle goes on to present the idea that one is good. Thus we don't like
Sir, just a minute. Is the good opposite of the evil? You understand my question? The good. Come on. I've forgotten the word. Bienes. No, not Dios. Dios, no. Del buono, c'est ça. Is the good opposite or different from the bad, the evil? You understand my question? Gentleman says, if I'm always attempting to identify myself with the good, and we are saying, is the good different or opposite, opposed to evil?
the word good is not the only good, is true.
No, we can't use the word truth. Please, just a minute. We'll come to that point, sir. We are asking a much more fundamental question, which is the good, the born, is the good opposed to evil?
Good and bad are created by society.
Huh?
Good and bad are concepts created by society.
Good and bad part of it. No, please, just stick to one thing. This is really a very serious question, you understand? Because this has been one of our battles in life, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, the evil and the beneficent, and so on, so on, so on. Huh? They are different but not separate. I don't understand that. Is the good, when you say opposite, is it related to the bad? Or is good totally independent of the bad? Do look, take the...
The good is trying to avoid the bad.
No, so not avoidance, not, just look at it in per se, in itself. Do we know the good because we know the bad, the evil? Do you know you are dull because you compare yourself with someone who is bright? This is very, please, this is one of...
Soltanto così possiamo fare la
Un momento, you see, he gentleman said we always do that. We compare ourselves with somebody who is bright and then call ourselves dull. That's what we do all our life. But we are challenging, we are questioning that. I know that's the normal, traditional thing. We know all that. Don't bring that up, which is so obvious. But we are asking, is the good opposite of the evil? If it is the opposite, it has roots in the good, in the evil. No? So you don't miss it.
Detto in altre parole, sono due aspetti dello stesso fenomeno.
Yep.
Quindi
Is
devo
that-
studiare il fenomeno.
It is two aspects of the same phenomenon, two sides of the same coin. But sir, that just words. But I won't go much deeper than that. You're just sticking at words. Je sais, madame, tout ça. You're not looking at it, you're not investigating, you're just saying something. Do please investigate. That's the purpose of these dialogues which we have every for the last 4 days, and tomorrow is the last dialogue. We are saying, please investigate. Don't say it is pleasure, it is this, it is that. And so we know all these things. We say, is the good opposite the evil? If it is the opposite, then it has the good has roots in the evil. Right? I know, wait, I only know that I am dull when I compare myself with you who are bright. Right? So, my dullness is rooted in your cleverness. Or are the two different? If they are different, how do I know what is evil? And what do I know about the good? The good, not the relative good, not the opposite of evil. Then how do I know what is good? I only know what's good in comparison. If I don't compare, you understand? If I don't compare myself with you who are bright, and then through comparison I find myself I am dull, if I don't compare, then am I dull? I don't know.
Is the problem in the division of the energy and not in the words good and bad?
I don't think we understand. This is too difficult. Look, sir, all religions have this problem. The devil, the good angel and the bad angel. The good and the bad. This has been right through all religions, from the ancient Sumerians to present day. Which is, there's this conflict between this and that. There is only conflict between this and that if they are related. if they are not related, and how do I know what is good if they are not related? Only by comparison. And comparison means measure. Measure means thought. Is thought the product of good? You understand what I'm saying? No, you don't. If the good is the product of thought, then it's merely a fragment, and therefore not the good. But there is a good which is not the product of thought. Therefore it has nothing to do with the opposite. It is. Che ora c'è? What time is it?
Un quarto alle 12. Are we in communication with each other, sharing something with each other? Have we got something this morning? Or are we just carrying on the same old way? Posso dare la risposta a quello
Sì,
che
sì,
lei ha
come
detto
ne...
adesso? Noi tutti siamo affascinati da queste cose, da molti anni, chi da uno e chi da mezzo secolo. Però c'è qualcosa per cui comprendiamo, ma non riusciamo a un certo momento ad andare oltre. Lei ne è molto dispiaciuto, e lo vediamo proprio questo, ma lei una volta ha detto che perché ci sia un dialogo occorre essere nello stesso tempo, allo stesso livello e con la stessa intensità sulla cosa. Ora, lei ha un livello e noi siamo a un altro. E noi non possiamo salire al suo. Lei è sicuro di poter scendere al nostro?
Bene, The gentleman says, you are at one level, we are at another level. Can't you come down to us? Or can't we come up to you? And we can only come up to you, you say, the gentleman says, I don't say this, only when we have the same interest, the same, at the same moment, with the same intensity, then we meet each other. That is, when we meet each other, when both of us have got the same interest, same intensity, and energy. So there is never communication, the questioner says, because we're always bobbing up and down. And can't you see our difficulty and break through our difficulty and do something about it? So you are putting the burden onto me. And as I've said many times, I am not your guru, I am not your leader, and I am not your teacher. You are the teacher, you are the guru, you can learn everything about yourself if you know how to read your book, which is yourself. But you don't want to read it. You won't take the trouble to look at it. And it's all there, because you are the world and the world is you. And therefore the whole thing is buried in you. The agony, the suffering, all the rest of it. Finished for this morning? Basta per oggi?